the House majority, our chairman, wanting to have a witness, this man who actually was a Chinese spy. So it's completely ridiculous for Republicans to claim to get tough on China while they're working with literal Chinese agents to spread misinformation. Goes to show you what a joke this is.
I'm joined by Congressmember Robert Garcia. Congressman, the MAGA Republicans are saying that they want to get rid of MAGA Mike Johnson now because this aid package has been advanced, most notably giving aid to Ukraine, which people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz and others who I consider to be in kind of the Russian contingency of Congress, they are very upset about this. What's going on? Do you think MAGA Mike survives this? Where are we at right now?
Yeah, I mean, we're not really sure, to be honest. I mean, it looks like he has obviously survived the vote. I think that's important. But I think that at the end of the day, it's not the job of Democrats to save MAGA Mike, to save this extreme speaker. He has a conference full of, honestly, a bunch of insane clowns that are out there causing chaos every time they get. I mean, we know that Marjorie Taylor Greene is literally at the tip of the spear when it comes to trying to impeach President Biden, trying to impeach Secretary Mayorkas, causing havoc everywhere she goes. And so this idea that we're somehow going to get involved in that debate, I think is really not our goal of being in the House, right? We want to win a majority back. We want Hakeem Jeffries to be the speaker. So what happens to Mike in the next couple of weeks, I think is we'll see. I think there's folks like Tom Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene and other folks that are considering putting up that motion to vacate, but hasn't happened yet officially.
Do you speak with any of these Republicans? Like, is there any even kind of conversation going on where they're even like, hey, like, we know these are some crazy people here, and like we're just stuck because of Trump. We're stuck. We don't like this. Like, is there any like socializing behind the scenes? Whether it's at grabbing some lunch or hanging out, and they're just like, this is the worst it's ever been.
100%. I mean, first, they know it's the worst it's ever been. A lot of the freshman Republicans that I know first of all, a lot of them think that like folks like Marjorie Taylor Greene are crazy. And but of course, they also don't have the courage to really speak up and speak out. And I think that they understand that they have a very slim majority, but they just also don't know how to govern. I mean, let's remember that Nancy Pelosi had a very similar majority for part of her speakership. And she was able to lead the caucus time and time again to pass consequential legislation for the American people, even having, of course, very diverse points of view and the progressive wing are more moderate Democrats. And so it can be done, but it takes a skill. It takes someone with integrity like Speaker Pelosi, and MAGA Mike is just not that person. And the Republicans, honestly, these people are extreme. Their views of America are so outdated. They want to move us backwards. They want to ban abortion. They want to take away rights from gay people. They want to cut rights for workers. They want to redistribute more wealth to the top 1% of the country. That's their agenda. And unfortunately for us, we're stopping a lot of that. And they're so dysfunctional. They're having a hard time even keeping a speaker.
Take us through, we feature your clips a lot in these committee hearings, whether you have, someone like a James Comer, who still isn't, MAGA Republican James Comer, who chairs the Oversight Committee, still saying things like, we'll see about what we have to impeach President Biden. We'll see. I'm going to show you later, and it's just like, Comer, you relied on a Russian spy as your purported whistleblower. To make matters worse, you relied on a spy from China. You quite literally are bringing in foreign agents and you're propping them up as witnesses before committee hearings in Congress. Like, what goes through your mind when you're at those committee hearings? And I always love the visuals that you bring. And it's a different kind of energy also with you and Moskowitz and Goldman and AOC and Frost. It's a different kind of energy there. Talk to us about that.
Well, I mean, first, James Comer should be totally embarrassed. I mean, we shame him every single week. We put him on blast every single week. It's funny because I think that he understands. I think dreads coming to committee meetings. Actually, he dreads what we're all going to say and how we're all going to take him to task. We call out every single lie and distortion. But yeah, I mean, look, I think especially the freshmen on the committee. We have an all-star team of freshmen that have come in. I'm proud to be president of our freshman class, and these young men and women are just incredible at calling out the lies. What's really important is calling out the hypocrisy. Right? I mean, James Comer will have a hearing on the influence of China, on the influence of Russia, yet he will invite Chinese spies as witnesses, and it's insane. Just this last week, I was reminding him that Gal Luft, who is literally a Chinese spy, James Comer called, quote, a very credible witness. I mean, that you can't make this stuff up. It's total insanity. They have completely jumped the shark on this. And so I think it's great to serve with such amazing people. We sit there sometimes and just, we can't believe that we're on this committee with not James Comer, but with Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Andy Biggs and Anna Paulina, Luna, and all of these folks that have no business being in Congress and just like to lie and like make shit up. So it's crazy, but we're committed to always calling out the truth.
It's truly a party, the Republican Party, made in the image of Donald Trump. And, I try to discern, other than them taking away freedoms and wanting to cause pain to people and taking away women's reproductive rights and trying to tell people who you can and can't love or marry. I'm trying to understand, what is their, what's their thing? It's clearly not conservative. They don't want to conserve institutions. And I genuinely try to watch these Trump speeches, and I compare them to the Biden speeches where Biden's talking about healthcare and veterans and restoring reproductive rights. He goes through increasing wages. And I'm just trying to sit here and I'm trying to understand what are you actually saying to the American people, other than you want to create fear and pain and harm? Do you know? Do they know?
I mean, what's really sad, for the country, is that they'll do whatever Donald Trump tells them to do. I mean, this is a party now with no real moral core or center. Their party is basically the MAGA Republican Party. It is Donald Trump's political machine. Whatever he says goes. And Donald Trump says, jump, they're jumping. They're doing whatever they can to jump, to dance, to entertain Donald Trump and his worldview, not just of what he wants for our country, but for the world, which is very, very dangerous. I mean, this is someone that views himself as an authoritarian. This is someone that is incredibly, as we know, xenophobic, uses racist language, divides our country, is himself a grifter and a criminal. And yet this is who the Republican Party has attached themselves to. And it's not just the party. That these folks are also representing a good chunk of the electorate. And I think that's what's scary, is that Donald Trump has warped and twisted minds. And we have a lot of work to do to win the election in November, to ensure that President Biden is reelected, but also to once and for all defeat Trump and defeat this Trumpian MAGA worldview. This is when we do it. We beat Donald Trump. We're going to beat him. This is not just, as President Biden says, not just his last campaign. This is Donald Trump's last campaign. We have a job to do, and we got to defeat him.
When you served in an executive function, you were the mayor of Long Beach. Of course, you've got the docks out in Long Beach, the longshoremen union out there. The importance of union workers has been a theme in President Biden's presidency. Supporting workers in general. President Biden was he was in Pittsburgh, he was in Scranton, he was speaking to union workers. And Donald Trump, on the other hand, went to Michigan to a non-union shop, pretended it was a union shop, had non-union workers hold up signs saying union workers for Donald Trump, which is the ultimate kind of scab move. The workers at the docks, these are some hardworking people, but, they're working sometimes multiple shifts a day. They're supporting their family. They're not necessarily following this all. And sometimes the media isn't crystallizing the contrast that you and I are talking about. So how do you get that message out, though, to the workers out there about just the differences in policy? Because, you worked with them.
Yeah, I think one thing is that, fortunately, most workers, most working class Americans, including union households understand the danger of Donald Trump. They understand that he's anti-worker, he's anti-union, and broadly support the president. But we also have to remember that we can't leave behind or not speak to working class voters. That is traditionally who our party has been made up of. And so it's important that we're being honest, that we're telling the truth, that we're inviting our union brothers and sisters, our working class folks into all the conversations that we're having. And most importantly, we have to remember that our party, and as progressives, we should always be thinking about fighting for the middle class, fighting for folks to get into the middle class. We are not the party of the very wealthy and the billionaires and the millionaires in this country. That's Donald Trump's party. And in fact, Donald Trump has now said on multiple occasions that he plans on cutting the billionaires' taxes again. He wants to cut corporation taxes again. I mean, those are things we've got to remind folks about. Those are the things that when I talk to folks in Long Beach and at the docks, and those workers are incredibly hardworking. They're going to be with President Biden, and they understand the stakes.
It's interesting too. If I get recognized by, whether it's, workers in the neighborhood and, construction workers, and they'll recognize the show, we'll have a real matter of fact, blunt conversation, and they'll be like, Donald Trump thinks that we're all pieces of shit. Donald Trump thinks that we're smarter than that. We know what's up here. Finally, Congressman, if you can, perhaps, we often talk about all of the rights and freedoms and things that Trump is taking away because it's so existential and it's so in our face. But, I also want to talk about with you as we get closer, in the next few months, to some very important dates and deadlines and things that have to be made. But also when Americans need to reflect upon what's going on in Congress now versus what a Congress could look like if Democrats were in the majority. So what types of priorities and policies and things like that, do you think would on day one, what would the contrast look like if rather than being in the minority, y'all were in the majority?
Look, I mean, what a reelected Joe Biden and if we somehow were able to hold on to the Senate, which will be tough but possible, and if we can flip the House, which I think we're going to do, we're on our way. We're going to enter an era of American politics and history that is going to be incredibly productive and actually move our agenda beyond this kind of MAGA worldview that is spreading across the world. And we're talking about being able to codify access to abortion rights. We're talking about things like voting rights and codifying voting rights across the country, making voting easier, not harder for people. We'll be able to actually pass the Equality Act, actually for the first time, give LGBTQ plus people protections in the workplace. We'll be able to pass things like the PRO Act to help working class people and unions across America strengthen their union, be able to bargain for more wages and strengthen healthcare. We'll continue to be able to lower the cost of prescription drugs. So the list goes on and on and on. These are things that most working class people support. And in fact, even many folks on the MAGA right or that are quote unquote conservatives, when you talk about issues around lowering their healthcare costs, getting housing more affordable, ensuring their public school is a strong place for their kids to learn, they also support those ideas. But we need to remove and get rid of this MAGA infection that has grabbed onto so much of the country. And we start by defeating Donald Trump, flipping the House, and keeping the Senate.
Thank you so much, Congressmember Garcia. We appreciate you as always. I know it's a busy weekend for you, so we'll be following each step of the way. Keep on doing what you're doing. We appreciate you.
Thanks so much.
All right, everybody, make sure you hit subscribe. We're on our way to 3 million subscribers. Thanks to your support, and have a wonderful day.
Real quick, Meta just changed their algorithm to suppress political content. Please follow our Instagram @MeidasTouch right now as we head towards 400,000 followers so you don't miss a beat.